Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. And look, the title of the video says it all. Another devastating poll for the Conservative Party, frankly. They've been pushed down into fourth place in a national poll, or opinion poll. YouGov is the pollster, so, you know, worth saying it's only one pollster out of many. We'll keep an eye on where the others place the Conservatives in the next few days. But look, YouGov is a reputable pollster, or reputable pollster, I should say. Yeah, look, very bad, quite humiliating result for the Conservative Party to be pushed down into fourth. This has happened before, actually. Election Maps dutifully made a post after this and said in 2019 they went down to fourth in the final few days or weeks of Theresa May's premiership. The difference is, I think, then they were in government, so they could actually make changes to increase their popularity. They obviously don't have that luxury anymore. And they had Boris Johnson waiting in the wings in 2019, and frankly, they don't have that kind of calibre in their back pocket here. Of course, they've got far fewer MPs to choose from to lead them, and I don't think it matters who leads them now. You know, I don't think the leadership that they have is working for them. Honestly, I think the Conservatives know that we know that Kemi Badenoch won't be the leader in the next general election, but they're paralysed by fear of changing her, for fear of seeming capricious and changing leader again, because it's become a bit of a meme, the Conservatives changing their leader all the time. So they're absolutely paralysed and just trudging this downward path in the polls. Interestingly, I just had a look at the comments, actually, and I agree with Frankie Ali here that, this is my take, frankly, to sum it up. I think the Tory vote will continue to flow to the Reform and the Lib Dems. We've seen that already. Labour vote will flow to Reform and the Greens. I would add to this that I actually think Labour vote will also flow to the Lib Dems in some places. I think that's a potentially could happen, because I actually think the Lib Dems are left of Labour on some things now. But yeah, in general, this take I absolutely agree with. I think he's got it spot on there. So let's have a look at how this would play out in terms of the House of Commons then. So the seat projection based on that poll will give Reform 309 seats, so short of a majority by 17. Labour Party would be down to 138. That's a huge loss of 273 seats on their current total, which that would surely be one of their heaviest defeats in history. Lib Dems improved by 23 up to 95. Now, I've been saying the Liberal Democrats are kind of capped out where they are in the 80s because they're not second in many constituencies. Well, I had a look at the Nowcast compared to this, and actually in some of the seats where the Lib Dems are winning based on this projection, they're actually currently third in those constituencies in the Nowcast. So, yeah, impressive by the Lib Dems, up to 95. SNP up to 43. Conservatives down to 21, losing another 100 seats on top of last year's worst result in their history. Yeah, I think the Conservative Party is finished. Interestingly, this would be enough to give Reform a coalition government, but I don't see that happening. I don't think Reform's voters would, for a second, accept that. There may be some sort of a supply agreement they come to, but I see that all ending in tears as well, frankly. So, yeah, look, the Conservatives, I think, down at 21 are pretty much a parliamentary irrelevance. Greens on 7, Plaid on 7, others on 11. So, look, this is the map. It's not an interactive map, it's just an image on X, so I can't hover over it and give details and stuff like that. But, you know, you can see just the extent of Reform's domination, really, through England. Still not up to a majority yet, but on this poll at least, or this model. But obviously working their way up to that. East Anglia, the East Coast in general, all the way through East Midlands, West Midlands is just pretty much dominated by Reform. It's really only the cities where you see a bit of red Labour. Yeah, 2 constituencies for the Conservatives there. I think that's in Leicestershire and a little bit into Lincolnshire. But Conservatives essentially wiped out, made irrelevant. And the Liberal Democrats dominating down in the south, as you can see there. And I think what you're seeing is the beginning, the genesis of a new two-party status quo. We're not quite there yet, but I think this is because I said in one of my previous videos, the end of the two-party system. Having thought about that, I don't actually. I think I changed my stance on that. It's not the end of the two-party system. It's an end of the two-party status quo. But I think with first past the post as the voting system, that kind of demands a two-party system. Because otherwise you just won't end up with a government, really. It will be coalitions all the time, and our system in the UK isn't really set up for that. So I think it's not the end of the two-party system. It's just that there's going to be two different parties competing. Now, Reform obviously have planted their flag firmly on the right. I think the other side of the debate is up for grabs, actually. Now, look, the Liberal Democrats are doing very well, but at 95 seats, very impressive by Lib Dem standards, but not, in any position to be close to forming a government in their own right. So they've got a long way to go to be challenging Reform. And like I say, they're not second in a lot of seats. So yeah, they've got a long way to go to really claim that mantle of the other side of the argument. Could it be Labour? Well, I think Labour in trouble as well, similar to the Conservative Party. Who else is there? Well, I don't know. I mean, we can't count out some sort of a merger on the left of politics. Things moving around like that. Who knows? But I think we are seeing the birthing pains of a new two-party status quo, basically, where the Conservatives are not one of those parties, and I don't necessarily think Labour will be either. But I think Labour's demise is a bit further down the road than the Tories is. So yeah, there you go. That's that poll. Catastrophic for the Conservatives. I think this would be the end of them as a force, because the donors would all be gone by this point. They would have very little money coming in. Morale in the activist base would be so low. I think it's just becoming increasingly exponential for the Conservative Party, and they are in a lot of trouble. I also ran the numbers through Electoral Calculus, by the way, and that would give Reform a 42-seat majority based on those same polling numbers. So it really depends on what model you look at. I think we can really kind of ascertain that Reform are somewhere between being just short of majority but very close to having a majority, fairly comfortable majority at the moment. So somewhere in that window is where we're currently lying, and Reform are definitely on track to be the next government. That's even 6 months ago when you said that, people kind of laughed at you, whereas now it's undeniable. It's definitely the way that it's going in this country. So that's that poll that was the title of the video. We have had a new Nowcast out since the last video as well, so I think it's worth looking at that. To be honest, there's not too much to really add on top of where we were last time. Of course, we saw in the last Nowcast or two that Reform have finally managed to break through in that South Wales area. You can see now that's very heavily Reform. Looks like they've got more seats there than Labour now, based off this projection, and Plaid picking up a couple too. Conservatives just entirely kicked out the Southwest. No Conservative constituencies in Devon. Obviously, they've already been kicked out of Cornwall in 2024, and now kicked out of Devon as well, which is going almost entirely, well, not entirely actually, no, but heavily Liberal Democrat, half Lib Dem, half Reform, really, actually, slightly more to the Lib Dems. Through into Somerset and Dorset, it's very similar. Lib Dems dominating down here in the south, as we just mentioned. The Lib Dems have just picked up that sort of southern vote, really. I think the affluent or at least middle class people who are comfortable financially. We know from the 2024 general election that one of their strategies was to target middle class families who shop at M&S or do grocery shopping at M&S 2 times a week or something was one of their criteria, and they're doing very well at targeting those people, and they've left the Conservatives and they're not looking like they're going back. Look, Reform dominating in Kent, dominating in East Anglia, dominating all the way up that east coast, and as I said, it looks very similar to what we just looked at, really, through Middle England, through the East Midlands, West Midlands, up into Yorkshire, Greater Manchester, just eating into the Labour heartlands up there, and up into Northumberland and Cumberland. It's all Reform blue. That's the big story, isn't it? As you come up into Scotland, we can see SNP obviously back in the game, largely by virtue of that Labour Party collapse in the vote north of the border. If we just have a look at some of these constituencies, we'll probably see, Labour down 20%, Labour down 18%, Labour down 20%, Labour down 20%. And it's kind of similar in many ways to what I've said about the Liberal Democrats in England when we've looked at constituencies where they're gaining, in that there's no huge surge to the SNP here. It's 4%, which is better than the Lib Dems in most of those constituencies in England. But it's not a massive, rise by any stretch of the imagination. It really is just down to that Labour Party support absolutely collapsing. The SNP doing very well up in Scotland. Reform, obviously, we saw last time getting their first Scottish constituency up in Aberdeenshire by 0.4%, so we can say that's margin of error. Obviously, that's a flip of a coin, so maybe that wouldn't actually work out. But according to the model, they're up there in Scotland as well. So, look, like I said, there's not too much to add, but I do want to just once again bring our attention to the margin tab. Now, interestingly, the margin tab has been changed. Now, I have no control over this map, but a number of you in the comments in the past have said, can you change the colour of Reform because it's too similar to the Conservatives, it's hard to distinguish. Well, like I say, I don't make this map, it's not my toy, but it may be electionmaps.uk, whom I use, or whose website I use. Perhaps they watch the channel because they changed it to purple, the same as I did for my county council prediction and results videos. So I don't think they watch the channel. I think it's probably coincidence. But there you go. You got your wish. So Reform now on the change map are represented by purple. And if you haven't watched the channel before, the darker the colour is, the safer the seat is for the party that's winning it at the moment, according to the polling. And I find this one this one's probably the most destructive tab that we have, because it really shows us, how close or not constituencies are. And you should notice, hopefully, that there's actually increasingly now more dark purple that we've mentioned before, but down in this Thames Estuary, North Kent, South Essex area, a lot of dark purple now. Sittingbourne and Sheppey, 23%. Rochester and Strood, 18%. South Basildon East, Thurrock, which is one of the seats they already have, 30%. Thurrock itself, 16%. Dagenham and Raymond, 15%. Hornchurch and Upminster, 18%. Clacton, Nigel Farage's constituency, 42%. Liz Truss's old constituency up in southwest Norfolk, even 21%. So you can see, that Reform are starting to just make these sort of areas where they're actually looking pretty safe. That they're building up safe areas of the country, heartlands, if you like. And you can see the same in Lincolnshire. Up here in Lincolnshire, you can see the same. Boston Skegness, Richard Tice is 33% ahead. Louth and Horncastle, 16% ahead. That's a Conservative big hitter who sits there, by the way, Victoria Atkins. She's the Shadow Education Secretary. Brigg and Immingham, 17%. Great Grimsby and Cleethorpes, 24% ahead. Scunthorpe, 15% ahead. Doncaster East, 16% ahead as you come through into South Yorkshire there. In Nottinghamshire, Sherwood Forest, 16% ahead. Mansfield, 17 or 18% ahead. Ashfield, 41% ahead. Lee Anderson, of course, a seat they already hold. Into Derbyshire, Amber Valley, 25%. So, look, you get the picture. There's a lot of safe Reform seats now, according to the polling, according to the models. There's a decent amount of Lib Dem safe seats, as I've mentioned before, particularly in the south. We're looking at Eastbourne, we're looking at Lewis, where they're 27% ahead. Mid Sussex, almost 20% ahead. Chichester, 20% ahead. Winchester, 30% ahead. West Dorset now 24% ahead. Yeovil, 18. Honiton and Sidmouth, 19. Taunton and Wellington, 18. 21% ahead. And again, you get the picture. A lot of Lib Dem safe seats. Where are the Conservative safe seats? Where's the dark blue? There isn't any. There are no Conservative safe seats, bar two, which are in London, both of them in North West London. Harrow East, where they're 35% ahead. Ruislip, Northwood and Pinner, where they're 17% ahead. Outside of those two, there are none. There are no Conservative safe seats. Safe being, according to this map, 15% is the cut-off point for a safe seat. So any margin greater than 15% goes as that darkest colour, which is safe. And there are none. In London as well, you've still got Chingford and Woodford Green in Duncan Smith. He's 13.8% ahead, so he's doing pretty well. Croydon South, where they're 12.5% ahead. The Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philps' constituency. Hertsmere 12% ahead, Oliver Dowden and Rishi Sunak, funnily enough, up in Richmond and North Allerton 12% ahead. But those are that's as good as it gets outside of those two that we looked at. So this is why I'm saying it's existential for the Conservative Party. It's getting worse and worse for them. They're losing ground all over the country, and there is no true blue areas anymore. At least according to the modelling that we have, they're just disappearing. Interestingly enough, let's just look at North West Essex, by the way, Kemi Badenoch's constituency, the leader of the Conservative Party. Well, she's on 2.8% ahead of the Reform Party. They're slowly but surely catching her up in her own constituency. Her preferred or favoured successor, or most people's favoured successor to her as a leader, Robert Jenrick, is only 1.7% ahead in Newark, in Nottinghamshire. So they're just falling away across the board. And like I see nowhere for them to go. The right don't trust them. They have a credibility problem on the right. As much they can go to the right rhetorically as much as they want, because they did that in government. Don't forget, in government the Conservatives were pretty right wing rhetorically, but in terms of outcome and legislation, it never manifested, and if anything, it was left wing. So they're not trusted by the right. The left despise them. They're not going to find any joy there. And the centrist dad, that middle class voter that we've been talking about, is going to or has gone to the Liberal Democrats and isn't coming back. The Conservatives are stuck. They're stuck in a rut, and I see no way out for them. I believe the Conservative Party is finished. Frankly, I don't see this as being retrievable for them. I think they took too many people for granted. I think they forgot what they were, and they've been punished at one general election. I think in the coming one, and maybe the next one after that, they're going to be punished even further and made into a complete irrelevance, frankly. And that will be a huge change to British politics, because the Conservative Party has been around for centuries. It's the oldest party in Britain. I think it's the oldest party in the world. And I think it's over. I do think it's over for them, and I think when you look at the data, when you look at the polling, people say it was a long way to the next general election, anything can happen, and that is true. But for the reasons I just stated, I just don't see a way back for them. The only potential way back for them that I could foresee is if reform implodes, if something happens with reform and that all breaks apart, then perhaps, in the absence of any other credible alternative to reform, perhaps the right of British politics has to hold their nose and vote for the Conservatives again and hope that they're better this time. But I think that's a very unlikely scenario, frankly. So yes, I think the Conservative Party are finished. They have no heartlands anymore. They have no safe seats. They have very little hope. And I think it's just a matter of time. I think with each of the local elections that comes by, we're going to see them losing councillors. We're going to see them diminishing in the British political scene. Let me know what you think in the comments, if you agree with that assessment, or if you disagree. I'm always interested to hear. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you're notified when a video comes out. I do have to apologise, because I did say during the last video that I was going to do some more deep diving into the local election results from a couple of weeks ago. Haven't got around to doing that. I've been very busy, both with my actual job, family life, and actually for the channel I've been doing a bit of work trying to put together my own databases of election results so that I can use my own data and have more control over what I show you guys, rather than relying on other people's work. Other people's work is fantastic, it's very good. The channel wouldn't exist without this Election Maps UK website. Link in the description, but I'd like to be more accountable for my own work, so I've been busy doing that, so I apologise. I will let me know in the comments if you want me to do a deep dive into the local election results, and I will do it, or try and do it. But yeah, otherwise we may give that one a miss. One last thing I would like to say is please do go over to X if you use X and follow the account over there. This is my X profile. So please go over there, follow me. As you can see, I've only got 72 followers, so I don't actually use this very much. But if more of you come and follow me, I will start to use it more. I'm not verified on there at the moment. I don't pay Elon Musk to verify at the moment. If more of you start following me on there, maybe I'll pay for it, and then my replies and things I post will get seen a bit more, and that may increase engagement. But yeah, please do go and follow me over there, and I'll try and use the channel a bit more. The profile a bit more if you guys head over there and follow Election Watch, or at Elect Watch. No, at Elect_Watch UK. But that's it for this video, guys. Thank you, everyone, for watching. As I say, get in the comments and let me know your thoughts. Is the Conservative Party finished, yes or no, and your thoughts, and why you think, whatever you think. But that's it. Yeah, thanks, everyone, for watching, and I will see you on the next one.